Well, here we are, smack dab in the middle of February, and some exciting news has come out in the college football world. And not really a time typically during the offseason that there's big news that comes out, but when your athletic director leaves, followed by a week later, your coach leaving, there's a head coaching vacancy at one of the most popular group of 5 destinations in the country. And that leads us to head coach Gus Malzahn being hired today by UCF athletic director Terry Mohajir, who worked with Gus Malzahn at Arkansas State about a decade ago, actually. So exciting news out of UCF in Central Florida. I know many people, like myself, were kind of pushing for Jeff Lebby, offensive coordinator out of Ole Miss, to come back to UCF. He spent time at UCF under Frost and then Heupel, and developed quarterbacks Mackenzie Milton, and started out recruiting Dylan Gabriel and worked with Gabriel for a little while. So it seemed like a perfect fit. So I wanted to get that out of the way. While I'm saddened we didn't get Jeff Lebby and all that came with it, I'm excited. Jeff Lebby, while he felt like the guy that would have stayed at UCF for quite some time, also looked like the kind of guy that maybe would have jumped ship 3 or 4 years down the road. Simply like Frost did with Nebraska and Heupel did with Tennessee. Much to our excitement as UCF fans, we no longer have to worry about Josh Heupel and his fourth quarter blown double-digit leads. That's Tennessee's problem now. But now we get BCS national championship coach Gus Malzahn about 20 seconds away from winning a national championship. And now he is in Central Florida to be the head coach of the Knights. And here's why I like that hire. When I look at what the Jaguars did with hiring Urban Meyer, I see a lot of similarities between Urban Meyer and Gus Malzahn. The first thing I recognize is neither of these coaches needed to take the job. Neither of these coaches were desperate to get hired. Neither of them were working in football at the time. It's not like they came from another program to UCF or Jacksonville, respectfully. I like it for that reason. I think that shows that the coach went out of his way to make a decision and say, hey, I do want to be in that location. I think Gus Malzahn sat there and said, you know what? I'm ready to be a coach again. And this seems like a great fit with an athletic director I'm familiar with, a program that is booming in the hotbed of recruiting here in the Southeast that he has a lot of familiarity with. And here he is as UCF's head coach. Objectively speaking, Gus Malzahn is the greatest football coach hire at the group of 5 level in the history of the group of 5, I'd say over the last 8 to 10 years since whenever we started using that term. Gus Malzahn is the biggest name hired at a group of 5 school in 10 years. It's as simple as that. So what does that mean? That means what Danny White did for the UCF brand has now trickled over into the coaching circle. And from talks with people that I know within the athletic department, it does seem like they had some people reaching out that were coaches at group of 5s, that were coordinators at P5s, and Gus Malzahn ends up being the guy. And here's the deal. When you look at a guy like Gus Malzahn, again, going back to Urban Meyer, you have to think his floor is extremely high. As UCF fans, we experienced an 0-12 season. You know, God willing, we'll never go back to that 0-12 type feeling. I don't think we will. But when you look at Gus Malzahn, he really comes off as the type of coach in the American Athletic Conference that if worst comes to worst, 8 or 9 wins is still attainable. And what did we feel with Josh Heupel? Started getting into a feeling that 8 or 9 wins was the ceiling. And that is never a good feeling to have, especially in the group of 5 when your only chance at any national recognition is a New Year's Six Bowl. You can't get there with 8 or 9 wins. Gus Malzahn steps in. He has a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator. A lot of people are tying him too closely to Auburn and their defensiveness when he was there in the SEC. Now, the SEC is unarguably, no denying it, the best conference in college football. I don't care to say it. They are the best conference in college football. He's got that feather in his cap. What comes along with the SEC? Dominant defenses. We've seen it except for this past season. We've seen dominant defensive performance come out of the SEC. But before he was at Auburn, he spent 1 season at Arkansas State, won 45-0 over Middle Tennessee State in the conference championship, and went over to Auburn. Before Arkansas State, he was at Auburn as a coordinator, and before that, he was at Tulsa. And what did he do at Tulsa? He led the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes to being the number 1 offense in the country ahead of Hurricanes, or ahead of Hawaii that had Colt Brennan, ahead of Texas Tech. He was leading the country as an offensive coordinator with Tulsa, with the Golden Hurricanes in the Conference USA. And here he comes to UCF. He's going to be playing Tulsa quite a bit, and hopefully he can be the kryptonite that finally gets UCF over the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. As UCF fans, we know all too well recently we have not come out victorious enough. I think we're 3-9 overall against the Golden Hurricanes. But what else comes along with Gus Malzahn, you might be asking? I think from a recruiting standpoint, this is a great move. Recruiting out of the SEC, you are recruiting at the highest level, not only as far as players go, but as far as competition goes. He was recruiting against the likes of Ed Ogeron at LSU, Dan Mullen at Florida for a year, Nick Saban at Alabama, Kirby Smart, Mark Richt at Georgia. He was recruiting against the top tier coaches in the SEC. So what does that mean for UCF? When he sits down in someone's living room and says, do you want to go play for this guy at Tulsa or this guy at Cincinnati or this guy at Memphis? He's going to say, come play at UCF. He's got his recruiting pitch, and he is going to draw in some fantastic talent. So for those of you that want to hold his final years at Auburn against him offensively, maybe let's attribute that to some poor offensive weapons. He did well with Cam Newton, kind of built that up a little bit back in 2012, 2013 when he was there as a coordinator. He was great with Cam Newton. And then we've seen other flashes from Auburn's offense over the past few years as well. So for those that want to say he's not an offensive-minded coach, go look at his track record. Go look at his time at Tulsa. Go look at his time at Arkansas State. I don't care what team you are. It's tough to shut teams out in any sport, especially football. Winning 45-0 in a conference championship game is pretty impressive, especially in your first year with that team. So I'm excited from a recruiting standpoint. Now, what does it mean for scheduling? Now, obviously, the athletic director is what kind of dictates the scheduling. Danny White had a very, very strong mindset as to no 2-for-1s. He was not going to have it. Well, UCF's new athletic director think differently? I think so. He said in his press conference today even that he is willing to take 2-for-1s as long as the one game is in Orlando and it's at UCF's home stadium, the Bounce House on campus. He said he's willing to do it, and I don't blame him. I think at UCF's level, at some point you got to put your swords down and say, listen, if we are that good, let's go out and beat them at their home on their home turf as well. We'll beat them here, we'll beat them there, we'll beat them anywhere. It doesn't matter. But for UCF coming off an 8-4, 9-4, whatever season over the last 2 years, to still be this hot of a program shows just what UCF has become over the last 4 years. It's not very often that a 4-loss group of 5 job opens up and a former Power 5 coach wants to jump in. And people want to say, oh, this didn't work with Charlie Strong at South Florida. I don't compare it to that. This looks a lot more like Mac Brown at UNC than it does Charlie Strong at South Florida. And the reason I say that is because there's a young core to build around. Malzahn has Dylan Gabriel. I would say maybe one of the best quarterbacks he'll ever have the opportunity to work with. Gus Malzahn said he's even going to be out there calling plays as well. So he'll have direct access to the offense every single game. I'm excited about that. I see this a lot more like Mac Brown going to UNC than I do Charlie Strong going to South Florida. So from that scheduling standpoint also comes he's very reputable. He's a respected coach in the coaching ranks at the highest level. I think he's going to be able to go out there and get some agreements made. When you have Scott Frost coming in from Oregon as the offensive coordinator, when you have Josh Heupel coming in, offensive coordinator out of Missouri, how much respect did those guys bring with them that expanded at UCF? Not much. They came in and they almost embodied UCF. They said, not only does the program need to build, my brand as a coach needs to build. Gus Malzahn doesn't need to build his brand. We know what he is as a coach. So all he has to do at this point is put his product on the field that we know he's capable of and build the program from the scheduling standpoint. Let's go out and schedule these top 10s, these top 15, top 20s. Let's be real. In the group of 5, you're not going to really have many conference top 25 games unless it's later in the year based on other teams losing. But when the SEC schedules are announced, every team pretty much has about 3 or 4 top 25 matchups built into their schedule from conference play. Teams like UCF need non-conference games to build their schedule. And Gus Malzahn's going to come along. First game, Boise State at the Bounce House. I think it's September 4th or 5th, I want to say, down in Orlando. A great start for Gus Malzahn and UCF. I'm excited for that. Respectable coach, reputable coach, high floor, unknown ceiling, really, if you think about it. I mean, he was competing in the toughest division. not only the toughest conference in college football, the toughest division in college football in the SEC West. It fell off a little bit this last year, but I don't think anyone would question the SEC West is the best division in college football. And here he is coming to the American Athletic Conference, and long-term outlook, here's my thing. I don't want to put my cart before the horse. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, any of those cliches. But in 2 or 3 years from now, when conference realignment becomes realistic and is on the top of mind of everyone within college football, Gus Malzahn is the respected coach that I think could be the difference maker in a Power 5 conference, allowing UCF into their conference. When you look at these programs, what makes a team a Power 5 program? Is it their success? No, because Vanderbilt wouldn't be there. Is it their longevity within the conference? Yeah, because Vanderbilt is there. And that's an easy excuse. That's an easy example to use. But I guess what I'm saying is when you look at the Power 5 teams, you always have these coaches that have history in the game. They have success elsewhere. Their storied backgrounds. And when you look at Group of 5 coaches, you look at young guys that are ready to move on to bigger roles. We've seen it with Matt Campbell. We've seen it elsewhere, even with Josh Heupel. Like I mentioned, it's coach poaching at its finest. At 55 years old, I don't think Gus Malzahn is going to be excited or eager to move past UCF, especially if over his first year or two, he can build this program into what he believes it can be, which is a top 10 program in the nation. So all of that being said, I'm excited for Gus Malzahn to be joining UCF. Was I wanting Jeff Lebby? Yes, from a pure production standpoint. But I think ultimately when you put all the pieces together in the puzzle, Gus Malzahn might be the steady coach. He might be the long-term answer for success. And he might be the guy that takes UCF's program to new heights.